So I still haven't stopped banging my hands on the desk, and I still don't have great recording ability here. My windows are open because it's going to be a warm day, and I wanted to air out the apartment before things got bad. But this is another installment of what I'm going to call from now on Thought Storm. Welcome to China. This is Mike Rice, and let's get started. All right, live from a noisy and wonderful city, Beijing, China. I've got a lot I want to talk about today, but I probably don't have enough time, so I'm going to try to limit it. One is, I cannot be online. I can't do it. I tried. I love being on Facebook because it allows me to track my relatives. But anytime somebody says something stupid, I have to literally walk away from the computer. And so it's really hard for me, or says something questionable, right? Like, and I don't really have a problem with people who speak their mind. Obviously, I'm an American. I think, that's our right as human beings. But every once in a while when somebody does that, it's like, what? What is the matter with you? So I guess what I'm saying is that every time somebody gives me a bumper sticker that is rooted in the idea that somehow they're a victim, I have a problem with that. Or that life isn't exactly what you thought it was going to be, but someday it will be. So I don't want to get specific because I certainly don't want to insult any family members, which is pretty much the only people that follow me at this point. And I certainly don't want to piss off anybody who's got an opinion that is different from mine. I'm not about saying stupid stuff to you to make you upset. I am... If anybody's willing, I'm always interested in a good conversation over a cup of coffee or a glass of beer about what the hell is going on in the United States. A lot of people think it's white supremacists, and I would beg to differ. But you see, that's America, and that's what we should be doing. Of course, what we're doing right now is we're putting on both sides of the spectrum. We're throwing up all these straw men and red herrings, and they're all turning out just to be red flags for a bunch of idiots. All right. So that being said, I'm going to try to control my smart aleckiness. Oh, by the way, my cousins put up another picture of all the sisters, and I love those pictures. I just want to give that shout out. Gina and all of them. Gina being the closest to me in age, and the rest being absolutely supportive and wonderful people. I want to say this, that while I am not a strong believer in their Lord Jesus Christ, I think it's an awesome thing they do. They are kind and generous people, and who they worship is absolutely 100% up to them, and they have every right to do it, and I would fight somebody to give them the right to do it, not just because they're my cousins, but mostly because they're my cousins, but not just because they're my cousins. They're good people. And anybody who says they aren't because they believe in religion is a fool and needs to have their face slapped, which is a big thing here in China, which I'll get to in a moment. All right, so China. Chinese are a wonderful people, and on the ground, as I've said before, they're fantastic. They are helpful and kind, and they are, just like anybody, they're a little bit capitalist in their heart. They want to be profitable, and they want to, have a better life than their children had. And I think that's what China's going through right now. Slowly but surely, China's creating a middle class, which is a bit unusual. Usually it's fairly wealthy folks that either run government or benefit from the running of government. And then it was a whole freaking slew of really, really poor people. And I mean, you folks think you came up in poor? You could always walk down to the local orphanage and get a better meal if you couldn't get it at home. And that's really sometimes was not the case here. Hundreds of thousands, some will say millions, of people actually starved to death because of policies of the Chinese government. And I think they're a little ashamed of it, and they want to change that, and they want to make it better for China. The government of China, I can't speak for them. I won't speak for them. They are who they are, but I know that the Chinese people, the ones that I've met, really just want to do well. Now, there are customs in China, like not really confronting actual issues, hoping they'll go away over time, which is pretty much, they've been lucky here in China, and that's true. Eventually Mao died, eventually starvation stopped, eventually things just kind of evened out, and now they're able to pursue more capitalistic ventures on the ground. But it's part of the Chinese culture to just let things go, to not confront, to not be confrontational, unless, of course, you're standing in the street and insulting China. Somebody's going to walk up to you and slap you hard, and I mean hard. But they're also, just like any other country, there are people who are nationalists that believe that China is a better country than any place on the planet, just like I believe the United States is better. Let me tell you this story. There's also racism in China, and it's not just racism against externals, Westerners or people from other countries. It's against other people within China. You know how that, and it's a subtle thing in the United States, and there's very few people who take it 100% seriously. But when we say, boy, those people in the South, they really, they're bumpkins, blah, 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 that joke. Or the people in the North are just very uptight, and, that sort of thing. And the middle of the country is just full of rubes who, wear red hats and vote for Trump. Those kind of, what they're calling now memes, these tropes about people, and tropes implies truth, so forgive me, but the idea of them being easily labeled, that's a pretty common thing here in China from province to province. And that's because there are actual differences in the provinces. In Guangzhou, they still have Dog Day, which is where there are hundreds of dogs in cages are sold for meat. Cats, too. They're trying to end it because they realize it just has a bad image on a global scale. But there's pictures of it on the internet. Go look it up. Guangzhou, Dog Day. I still have to go down and see that. I really want to see it before it ends. I want to see that this actually occurs in other countries. So the next time somebody's telling you America sucks, then you can tell them at least we don't sell our dogs for food. Not illegally anyway. All right, so that all being said, different provinces have different cultural habits, and so lots of jokes are made internally. So there's like any people, there's a citing of differences to help bolster personal worth. We do it in the United States. They certainly do it in other places in the world, to the point of horrifying war sometimes. That all being said, I want to be real clear about something. The Chinese also are racist in their own way. Some Chinese are very racist and very upset that there are Western people here at all. They want another purging like Mao's purging of the Western culture. They're very few now, or at least they aren't as public. I'm not sure how few they are, but as people get older and they die off, those ideas seem to die off with them, especially since there's now this huge distraction of quasi-wealth and the appearance of hipness and cell phones and all these things that distract people. When I first came to China, I used to bring my scooter, and when I say scooter, I mean, like actual little motorcycle-looking thing, but you don't have foot pegs. You put your feet in front of you, Italian-style scooter. I used to bring it into my apartment because, say what you want about being able to walk around the streets at night. Well, they won't assault your person. They'll certainly steal your scooter battery. So I would bring it up every night, and it took up some space in the elevator, but lots of people do it, so I thought I'm going to do that. And I brought my scooter in, and I was dragging it in and trying to pull it as far back in the elevator as possible. And some guy stepped in, tall, good-looking Chinese kid, stepped in and blocked me from being able to move it all the way in. So I had to readjust, and because I wasn't going to, first of all, I couldn't tell him to move. At the time, I couldn't speak enough Chinese. Not even sure that'd be the first thing I'd think of now. Anyway, the point is that I moved my scooter around, and when we got to my floor, he was still in my way, and I tried to get him to move, and he was just standing there looking at me like, who the hell are you? And so I bent down to lift my scooter up, and this guy hauled off, and from above his head and down to where my head was, he bitch slapped me hard in the left hand side of the head. And I haven't been hit that hard in years. And so it rung my bell. I stood up and I was like, what do you think you are doing? Because he was a tall kid, but he was skinny as hell. And I'm a fool because I have no fear whatsoever of other people. I don't think there's anybody I couldn't personally damage, even if it did kill me. Which is a stupid way to live your life, but there you are. It's part of who I am, and I try to fight it every day. Always be courageous, always be kind. That being said, he stood up, he stepped out of the elevator, and he tried to kung fu me. Right? He had pretty good form. His foot went straight up, and it came literally millimeters from my chest, and rubbed a little dirt on my shirt. And I looked down at it, and I looked up at him, and I laughed. So I grabbed his foot, and I pushed him out of the elevator. Now, unbeknownst to me, there's a guy standing over by the buttons, and he leaps and gets the hell out of there. He just goes. He's gone. He literally leaps over not climbs over, leaps over my scooter to get out. This guy is now dancing around in the lobby of the elevator on whatever floor we stopped on, because it wasn't my floor. And he's like, come on. And so as the doors closed, I just made like a little pinching motion with my finger till I got about, 2 millimeters apart. And I smiled, which is really rude. Le boulemau, right? I was not, it's wo boulemau. I am not polite. His face went bright red, and the elevator doors closed, and I never saw him again. Of course, it was a reference to his manhood, which is there's a macho-ness to other parts of the world that, women talk about toxic masculinity. I don't really think they have any idea. This guy was young and a fool, and honestly, I was young and a fool once, so you cut him some slack. But man, it took a day or so before, I felt like my ear was normal again. So my point is that this was a young man who felt it was okay, because I had inconvenienced him in an elevator, to hit me, and not hit me, but slap me like I wasn't worth the punch. This is a thing also. So I think maybe there's a way to understand Chinese culture without having to participate in it if you just keep a fairly low profile, which, by the way, was recommended to me when I first came here, and now not so much the case. There you go. Told you I didn't have enough time. But that being said, here we are at the end of this, and I want to say two things. I love my family. I really appreciate Facebook posts from them. And every once in a while, I just have to walk away, because if somebody makes, some bumper sticker comment that is just like, come on. So, and it's not normally my family. My family's usually pretty, spot on. That all being said, I love you guys. Remember, always be courageous and kind.